Hi everyone, welcome back to the Summer Jam webinar series. John Bart's here with Network Consulting Services, and today we've got our identity rock stars, Wendy Busath from Okta and Brian Hodzik here from NCSI on stage today. Wendy, Brian, welcome to the Jam session.
Hi everybody.
Thank you. Hi everybody.
There we go. This is our fourth and final Jam session. It's been a great tour. Our annual webinar series here showcasing all of our experts and our solutions, and you can see these past performances here on our YouTube channel. We'll go ahead and make you presenter and get right into our identity management crisis with Okta.
Okay, fabulous. I'm just going to share my home screen here. All right, so I hate slides. I'm going to get right into demonstrating Okta. And so for those of you on the phone, Okta is an identity management tool. We are 100% based in the cloud, so we are, there's no on-prem infrastructure required for this tool. And what we're going to talk about today is around several different things, like the ability to do multi-factor authentication. So I'm going to launch in to show you a little bit about what our product looks like. So I'm getting my screen set up here. On the right-hand side, you'll see I've got an iPad. This is just being broadcast to my screen. On the left-hand side, you can see I've got a login screen to log into an Okta tenant. So one thing you'll notice here is that there's no password being displayed on the screen. So we're asking for a username first. The reason why we're doing that is because we have policies in place where once we know who the user is, and prior to them actually authenticating to the system and getting access to applications and things, we can do some analytics on what we know about that user. And we can also not use a password as their primary method of authenticating. So this is becoming something that Okta is really pushing the industry toward, is passwordless authentication. Because people don't like to remember passwords because passwords are inherently insecure anyway. So this is a great thing that we're leading the charge on. Now, before I actually authenticate a user, I want to also touch on another problem that a lot of our customers see, which is password resets and forgotten passwords and unlocking locked accounts. So you can see here, if I have a problem signing in, I can use Okta to reset my password via SMS or voice call or email. And I can do the same thing for unlocking an account. So when we talk about logging in, there's several different ways of logging in. Okta has a user store called Universal Directory. It's in the cloud, fully 100% based in the cloud. But we can also integrate with on-prem systems like Active Directory, so that we can allow end users to log into this tool using their Active Directory credentials. And we can also reset the password in Active Directory and unlock Active Directory accounts. And how this becomes super valuable is that, you know, you've got users that might be in a whole bunch of different locations. So you've got users that are in your HR system. You've got users that are in Active Directory. You've got users that might be in a database. You've got users that could be already stored in Okta. And what Okta does is provide that single pane of glass where all of your users can live and be managed and have their access controlled via this central web console, which will allow you to set up password policies, password reset policies, multi-factor policies, which applications they can get access to, and all sorts of things. So as I go to log in now, let's go back to the passwordless authentication part of things. So I'm going to type in this user's name, and I'm going to hit next. Now, it just so happens that this user happens to be one that falls subject to a policy where I'm going to allow him to use the password as the primary authentication. So I'm going to type in my password here. And you'll notice there's an additional verification that is coming up. This is because this user happens to be a member of an Active Directory group that is forcing him to be double verified when he goes to log in. So I have multiple ways of providing that second verification based upon what I've configured in the Okta administrative console. So you can see for this user, I've enabled 5 different methods. Google Authenticator, SMS. I could call him, and there's a system that would call him and tell him a code to type in here, or we can use security questions. The one that's by far and wide most used by Okta customers is the Okta Verify method. This is our own application that I have already installed on my iPad here on the right. So it does both the one-time password via entering the code that will be generated and shown over here, or we can do the push notification, which is really a simple end-user experience. So I'm going to click send push. You'll see on my iPad on the right here now, it's sending me a push notification. All I have to do is view that notification. The notification is going to tell me where I'm logging in from. I happen to be using my cell phone as a hotspot right now, even though I'm in Salt Lake. It's actually going through California, but it tells the user agents and all of those things. So I can just look at that and approve or deny. I don't have to type in a code. I don't have to do any other steps besides click that one button. So that makes it super simple for our end users to be able to have a double verification. And we can talk about why multi-factor authentication is important just for a second here. There are a lot of attacks going on these days that are password spraying attacks where there are bots or there are nefarious people that are trying to brute force figure out what your password is by logging into the applications and the identity management systems that your user resides in. And so a very simple way to avert those attacks is just to simply turn on any form of multi-factor authentication. And so Okta makes it super easy to honestly just click a button and enable the multi-factor verification for users, and it effectively will stop those password spraying attacks in their tracks. So to show a little bit more about what Okta offers. So now that I've logged in, I'm logged in as Daniel here. I've got a bunch of different tabs. I've got a whole bunch of applications. And what Okta was originally created to solve was the problem of having all of these cloud applications, and every single one of those cloud applications has a different user store and a different username and password. So all of these different applications, somebody had to remember how to log into these things. So Okta provides single sign-on into these applications, and we do so via standards like SAML or Federation through WS Federation if you're talking about Microsoft products like Office 365. But of course, there are also other applications that do not support those Federation standards, and so Okta also has a browser plugin. And this browser plugin, beyond giving you a second way to view all of the applications that you can get access to here, the browser plugin is what's going to allow you to authenticate to those web-based logins where it's just going to record and replay your username and password into those fields. So like we know those are not the most secure way of doing things, but for some applications out there, it's the only way that we have to achieve single sign-on for those. So you can see here that I've got a bunch of different applications listed. Now, all of these applications can potentially have separate sign-on policies. So you can invoke, like for Office 365, for instance, a multi-factor verification every single time somebody chooses to go to Office 365. So you'll notice I'm trying to hit Office 365. Okta is in control of the authentication process because I have federated with Office 365. And so what happened is Okta's policies were then evaluated as I clicked on that Office 365 chiclet, and the policy says this user must do a multi-factor verification in order to get into Office 365. Then I could have other applications like Salesforce, maybe I deem not quite as insecure, and so I'll just allow a single sign-on to automatically take that user right into the tool itself. Okta also provides a lot of self-service help here, and so we find that password resets are absolutely plaguing our customers, where end users have to either make a phone call to the IT service desk, or they have to submit a ticket, or they have to get in touch with someone and go through the whole process of having someone help them through the change password process. Okta allows end users to do that for themselves. So I can supply my current passwords, reset the new password, and I can also put a multi-factor verification in front of that ability to change my password. I can also expose information that end users can manage on their own. So for instance, I have exposed a secondary email field, so I can let my users type that in and manage that themselves without having to call the help desk to set up that information. I can also have my users be in charge of the knowledge-based questions that are being used for the password, forgotten password situation. I can allow them to manage the text message number that the forgotten password flow will occur through, as well as the voice call. I can also allow my end users to manage all of the enrollments that they have done into multi-factor systems. So for instance, let's say I'm getting a new mobile phone next week and I want to revoke the token that's on the old mobile phone. I can go ahead and just click the reset button here, and it will allow me to do a reset wherein it will revoke the token on my existing app, on my iPad in this instance, and then the next time I go to log in, it will automatically just prompt me to re-enroll into my Okta verified mobile application. We can also do things like change the display language for this end user tool here. So what this really does is it provides you and your end users the ability to be able to be more efficient, and cuts down on those help desk calls, cuts down on the operational expenses for your company. So I want to keep this interactive. If there are any questions, go ahead and interrupt me now and let me know if you've got anything that you're wondering about.
Yeah, Wendy, it's Brian here. I have some questions in the chat. You mentioned Active Directory. What if I don't have on-premise Active Directory? Is that required?
Absolutely not. No, as I mentioned, Okta is a cloud-based user store on its own. So we provide the ability to integrate with Active Directory if you do have users that currently exist in Active Directory. But we have many customers out there that are using Okta as their primary user store and do not have Active Directory. So for instance, if you have, let's say you have employees, but you also have like a call center or maybe some contractor users. And these contractors or call center folks actually work from home. They don't use a laptop that is issued by the company. You can just store those users in Okta to be able to give them access to their applications that they need access to without creating an Active Directory account for them. And so we provide the ability to integrate with Active Directory via an agent to pull users in that are in Active Directory, but that's just going to supplement the total count of users that could be stored in Okta.
Okay, great response. Another question here. What if I have existing multi-factor? Can Okta integrate with it?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are really, and let me switch over to the administrative console and kind of talk through some of the stuff. So if I switch over to multi-factor in the administrative console, you can see there's a bunch of factor types that I have listed here. The ones with green check boxes next to them are the ones that I have enabled right now. So we support a multitude of different methods here. We support like a security key, like a YubiKey. We also support integrating with existing deployments of multi-factor like Duo, Semantic, any type of on-prem MFA, RSA Secure ID, for instance. So these allow us to use that method as the factor, but control the actual policies for when we are saying, yes, right now you need to provide a multi-factor verification inside of Okta itself. So you could use multiple different types of factors, whether those factors are supplied by Okta or by a third party like Duo.
Great. I think that's all the questions for now.
Okay, perfect. So while we're on the topic of multi-factor authentication, just wanted to kind of talk about the universal directory and how it is that we can support all of these policies, including multi-factor policies. So first of all, I'm going to switch over to the people side of things. So this is universal directory. As you can see, I've got a bunch of users stored in here. These users are coming from various locations. So I can add a person simply by typing in the information here and manually doing that. I can add a person by using a script which calls Okta APIs. So Okta is an API-driven product, so pretty much everything I'm showing you on the administrative UI can be done via an API call. But you'll notice that these users have different email addresses. Some of them are actually coming from a domain, so an Active Directory domain. They're being pulled in. And this is better illustrated if I switch to the Groups tab. You can see that I can create groups in Okta manually or via API. But I can also pull in groups from the systems that I'm connecting Okta to. One of those systems can be Active Directory. So I can pull in people, I can pull in security groups from all of these different applications and backend directories that I am integrating Okta with. So that makes us super powerful in that we can use your existing roles and groups to be able to give access and be able to enforce multi-factor policies in front of those. So if you wanted to integrate with a directory like Active Directory, you can do so via our simple wizard-based integration, where you can hook up to Active Directory and LDAP directory, even just a CSV file or an LDAP interface, so that you can pull those users in. And you'll notice here I've got 3 different Active Directory domains. I've got hooked up to a CSV file import, and I'm also hooked up to an LDAP directory. So all of the users from all of those different sources are then pulled in and displayed here and managed here within this single people pane. Now, when I want to give users applications that they can access, all I have to do is simply click Add Application. Okta has over 6,000 applications that we have pre-built integrations with. So if you want to integrate, let's say you've got a Cisco product that you want to integrate with, you can type in that name and you can look through all the different integrations that Okta has a pre-built connector for. And so, for instance, if you want to single sign-on into your Meraki dashboard, you simply click Add, walk through a short wizard, and you will have your end users enabled to log into Cisco. So we make it extremely simple. There's no coding, there's no customization done. Everything is in this administrative console, and if there are any steps that need to be taken on, let's say, the application side, so let's say that we are integrating with Office 365, for instance. I've already got one set up, so I'm going to show you here. This is how you would add it, but I'm going to go back to my actual one that I've already set up just to show you a couple of things about that. So if you wanted to set up single sign-on and or provisioning, which is the creation of user accounts in Office 365, all you have to do is walk through this short wizard where you're going to specify information like what is your Microsoft tenant name, what is your Office 365 company domain, and then you will give it administrative credentials so that Okta can talk to Office 365 and it can actually create users for you. And how you will do that is you'll take any of those users that were shown on the People tab here, and you'll simply say, I want to assign Office 365 to people, or you can also do it by group. So that could be an Active Directory group, it could be an Okta group, it could be a Workday group. And when you do that assignment, I'll show you. So I'm going to click on this Assign button for a user that's already assigned. And what's happening right now, and the reason why it's taking a little bit of time to pull that up, is because Okta is actually using its authentication to Office 365 as an administrative user to look up information in Office 365. So what it's going to do is it's going to allow you right now at assignment time to say, these are the licenses I want to give to this user or this group of users, and these are the roles which exist in Office 365 and are queried at real time that I want to give this user to into when we provision them into Office 365. So what this allows you to do is you can take a user and automatically pull them in to Okta from your HR system like Workday, and then automatically, based on their group membership within, you can provision them an account in Office 365, as well as create them an account in Active Directory. So what we're allowing you to do is have a single source of truth, which could be Workday or your HR tool. You have their single source of truth, and that's great. Okta is just going to be in the middle as a hub, which will allow you to provision users to applications and single sign users into applications based on assignment to those groups. Now, security is our main focus for Okta, and I spoke about having application-specific sign-on policies that you can apply. So let me show you something we can do for Office 365. For instance, we have a sign-on policy section here. And what I've done is I've configured a bunch of different rules in my policy. And these rules are evaluated top-down. And what's going to happen is I'm going to first be subjected as I log into the first rule. This first rule says if my device is trusted, I don't have to provide multi-factor authentication. The second rule, so if that one isn't true, it'll go on to look at the second rule, which is I'm going to force multi-factor for all modern authentication clients. Modern authentication clients in the Microsoft world are clients that are using modern protocols. And so these modern protocols like SAML, WSN, and OAuth are going to allow you to authenticate and input an MFA experience into that authentication. Now, there are other protocols, legacy protocols that Microsoft supports that do not allow an MFA to be put into the middle of that authentication. And so what I've done here is I've denied everybody else. So what I've said is if your client does not support multi-factor, I'm not going to let you into Office 365. And I will allow you to skip MFA if you have a device that you're using that's registered with Okta and trusted. Any questions on that part of it?
So we have a question here maybe that goes back to when we were talking about multi-factor. Can we integrate with biometric devices such as fingerprint readers?
Yeah, so we actually have built into our iOS, so you can turn on Touch ID as well as the Okta Verify app that I showed. So that's an option. So we do that. We also support Windows Hello, and we're supporting the WebAuthn technology now. And then through our generic on-prem MFA connectors, we can also support biometric readers, PIV cards and things, CAC cards for government employees and stuff like that. Yep.
Great. And I have a follow-up question kind of on what you're showing here about Office 365. A lot of my customers are telling me that they're falling for this trap where a user loses their password, their password gets compromised, and then someone from a foreign country is now coming and logging in through their Outlook Web Access. How could this help protect against that?
Yeah, well, multi-factor, right? I mean, turn on multi-factor, because if the user has your password, but you've got multi-factor turned on and forced, just like I was showing you here through the sign-on policies, that user is going to be stopped halfway through the authentication because you'll get an Okta Verify prompt to your phone or something, and they're not going to be able to complete the authentication process. So multi-factor is absolutely the easiest and best way to do that. And with these Okta policies, you can shut off anybody who could log in simply using that stolen password. Okay,
great. Another question, how many applications do you guys support? You've talked about Office 365 and a few others, but how many?
Yeah, so there are varying levels of application support that we have. So there's kind of two different tiers. We have applications that support provisioning, which is the lifecycle management of those user accounts being created and deleted in the application itself. So you can see here as I search, I can search for ones that support provisioning. And that's around 200 or 300 applications that support provisioning. And then there are others that support SAML. And so it looks like I've got a really bad network connection here, so I'm slowly doing searches. But we have another section that supports SAML, so that is the federated single sign-on technology. I believe it's around 700 to 800 applications that support SAML. And then we have, of course, our browser plugin, which we call SWA, or Secure Web Login Authentication, which comprises the other, several thousand. So in total, you can see here we have almost 6,500 pre-integrated applications that we can achieve single sign-on and or provisioning to.
How difficult is it to set up those applications?
It's super easy, and just wanted to note that even though we only have 6,500 applications, just because it's not in the catalog doesn't mean we can't integrate with it. So you can see this button, can't find an app. You can create your own application integration based on the things that application supports out of the box. So let's say there's an app out there that supports SAML, but it's not in our catalog. You can step through this quick wizard. You can create a SAML 2.0 integration by saying, what is my app name, going through a couple pages of wizard information where you specify the single sign-on URL and the audience that you're dealing with and which application attributes you want to send over. So like, let's say you want to send over first name, last name, phone number, and maybe the groups that the user is a member of in that SAML assertion. then that application on the back end, if it supports SAML, will take all of these things, understand them, and single sign the user into the application. So you can create your own. You can use one of the 6,000 that we have. But yeah, the 6,000 that we have, you will be able to. And let me step back. I can actually show you an integration really quickly. So when you go to add the application, I'll do Office 365 since we've been talking about that. So you would click the add button. It's going to walk you through all the stuff that you need to do, which the chiclets you want to display on the end user's page, and then it's going to walk you through how do you want to sign on to this app. So for some apps, the only thing you can do is that browser plugin that we call Secure Web Authentication. For this app, we happen to support WS Federation, so let's check that. And now you can say, let Okta configure this automatically. So literally all you have to do is supply a username and password for the administrative user and click next, and the federation has been completed. So there's nothing else that you need to do for this application if you let Okta do it for you. In other apps, other instances, sometimes there's no way to do it by API. So Okta provides setup instructions for every single of those 6,500 applications, where it's going to give you copy and pastable information and step-by-step instructions, including screenshots for what you would need to do on the application side. And so this is not something that you're going to have to piece together, this string. The documentation is generated at runtime for your specific Okta domain and to your specific application that you're trying to integrate with.
So I have another question here, Wendy. It's what if my usernames don't match between Active Directory and the applications?
Yeah, so we have a whole entire mapping process that we can provide on top of these applications. So let me go into the profile editor and I'll show you an example of this. So Okta is a very extensible directory. We have the ability to do custom attributes. So we could create as many custom attributes as you want within the Okta user schema. So you can simply just say, I want to add a new attribute. Here's the data type. Here's all the stuff I want to put on it as far as restrictions go. But then we also have the capability of going in and looking at mapping between applications. So if I am looking at Active Directory, for instance, I can say and use expression language to actually change the mapping. So I can say user.firstname on the Okta side, or on the Active Directory side, is mapped to first name in Okta. But if I want to make that a specific string, I can actually use the expression language to create a string and look up stuff and create that value and make it look exactly the way I want to make it look. Beyond that, we also have the ability to do profile mastering. So we can do attribute level mastering, where we can say, hey, I want to pull first name, last name, phone number from Workday, but I am actually pulling an email address from G Suite. So what's going to happen there is the information will flow in from Workday. The other information will flow in from G Suite as far as the email address. That's going to overwrite what's in Okta. So you can order these, and then based on which attribute you want pulling from where, you can create that aggregate value of profile information on each and every user that represents the correct information coming in from all of these different sources.
So one more question here, Wendy. When you integrate with Active Directory, where is the password stored? Is it in Okta or Active Directory?
Well, you can do it either way. So you can set up what we call delegated authentication, where the password is stored solely within Active Directory. And Okta is just accepting the password in the UI and then sending that password down to Active Directory and saying, hey, is this a good username and password combination? And Active Directory just says yes or no. We don't store the password in that instance. But you can also have it where the user is what we call Okta mastered, and the password is stored in Okta, so you can do it either way.
Great. Well, I think that's all the questions that have come in so far. I'll give everyone kind of a couple of minutes to see if they have any follow-up questions, but I thought that was a great presentation, Wendy. Thank you very much for that.
Great. I have more if you want me to keep going. I know we're
yes,
at 30 after the hour, so
Yeah.
I'm going to quickly go into some of our multi-factor stuff because I think this is really the most exciting stuff coming out. So let me go and I'm going to show you what we can do here. So remember I talked about passwordless authentication and the ability to use a different factor as that primary authentication piece. So something that I've set up here is, for instance, I can do authentication method chaining. So I've set up a method of logging in a user here where I'm going to require double multi-factor. This could be something that you might use for higher risk users, for instance. So I've mapped this to a high risk users group in Okta here. And what I'm doing is I have the ability to say, I want to require a factor sequence or a sequence of factors that this user is going to have to provide to be able to get into this system. So I can say I want to do Okta Verify push plus an SMS, or I want to do an Okta Verify one-time password plus a Google Authenticator one-time password. I mean, these are just random examples, but I can make this chain as long as I want, and I can add additional things onto the end of that chain and make this really as customized to the security policy that you want to invoke. And then, of course, I can also do passwordless. So here's an example of setting up a passwordless authentication where instead of providing a password first, I'm just going to ask for Okta Verify with push or Okta Verify time-based one-time password, and that's it. The user's in. They don't ever have to know or type in a password. So this is really becoming a great use case because we have a lot of customers. One customer in particular that I'm working with has 16 million members, and 2/3 of those members forget their password every single month. And so they're like, please help us with this. Password resets are inundating our system with requests. And so the plan for them is to actually turn on passwordless authentication, where they're using either an SMS or a push notification or a voice call or something else besides a password to authenticate those users. So Okta is not just for the workforce. It's not just for your employees to get single sign-on into stuff. We have tons of customers out there, including Major League Baseball. We've got, like Safeway stores. We've got MGM, the hotel chain in Las Vegas. And what they're using Okta for is to supply authentication and user management for their entire base of customers. And so Okta has an entire framework of APIs and widgets and, of course, universal directory where we can store anything we want about those users that participate in those loyalty programs, for instance. And so we provide a really great set of tools, libraries, SDKs, documentation, as well as, of course, the service in the cloud, which you can use to authenticate users, store users, gain consent from users, and all sorts of things. And if you hit the developer.okta.com website, this will walk you through all of the different things that Okta can supply as a platform for creating integrations and interactions with your end user customers. So that's probably it for me. I'll stop again if there are any questions, answer those, and then we can probably wrap it up, guys.
Okay, great. No additional questions came in, so I would like to say thank you, Wendy, very much for coming on and presenting today. That was a great presentation, and I'll just kind of throw the NCSI pitch on the end here. We're very selected with the products that we choose. We don't just sell everything to everyone. We want to make sure we truly are using best of breed products. And we selected Okta because it really is a market leader in what it does. For anyone that follows Gartner, they just came out with a new version of the Magic Quadrant that Okta absolutely blows away the competition in what they do. So if you looked at other technologies or you've been kind of going down the Microsoft path and been unsatisfied with the authentication systems that they have, please give us a call. We'd love to give you a more tailored demo to your environment. We can do things like set you up with a proof of concept or show you how we've used it in our organization. Where we eat our own dog food. So we previously had dozens of usernames and passwords and had those same problems that everyone else has. We switched over to it. All of our users are incredibly happy now with the way that that things are with the provisioning. When we hire a new employee, I can simply click a couple of buttons and it creates their Office account for them. It creates their Dropbox account. It really does a great job going through and creating that user. And then even better on the flip side, when we lose an employee, being able to quickly with a couple of clicks be able to take away all of their access. I know that they're not coming in and logging into our Salesforce instance afterwards because I forgot to go and disable their account. So it really is a great product. Please reach out to your salesperson or myself. I'd be more than happy to get somebody to tell you more about kind of how the product works. So thank you very much for attending. We're going to, just like John said, we're recording this and putting it on our YouTube channel. If you need to rewatch it later or give it to someone in your organization that wasn't able to attend. So Wendy, I'm going to put you on the spot. What was your favorite question? Anything jump out as your favorite question to answer?
I like the one about do you need Active Directory, because I think Okta is going to be an Active Directory killer. There's going to be some point where folks don't need Active Directory anymore, and everything's going to be able to be stored in the cloud in Okta without having to worry about those on-prem systems. So I'll choose that one.
Okay, perfect. I like that question as well. So we'll make sure you get that swag out to the person who asked that question. And please keep an eye on our website and our LinkedIn page and so forth for future webinars. But again, Wendy, thank you very much for presenting. We appreciate it very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.